So, good morning, everybody. A very warm welcome. Dear artists, dear students, dear colleagues, dear gallerists, dear collectors, members of the press, foundations, dear public, dear all, and of course, dear friends and fans of Schmuck. How great to see you once again, so many of you. We are delighted to have you with us. The Jewelry Week is unfortunately coming to an end. These days, with their many exhibitions and events, on the occasion of the International Crafts Fair, with a special show Schmuck, with their guests from all over the world, are full of encounters and discussions and discourses about contemporary jewelry. Yesterday, the prestigious Herbert Hoffmann Prize was awarded at the fair. We are happy to congratulate the award winners, Asin Soltani, Takayoshi Terashima, and Juanes Sanchez. We like also to congratulate the Ehrenpreis winners, the winners of the honorary prizes, SRA Marie-José van den Hout from the Galerie Mazet in Nijmegen and Rosemarie Jäger from Galerie Rosemarie Jäger in Hochheim. On Friday, we successfully opened the Gott Brongers exhibition, as well as the exhibition by the jewelry class of the Design University in Kobe. Many of you were also here at this event. And today, I would like to welcome you to another event, our third Engelhorn Jewelry Lecture. This lecture by Susan Cohn has the title, Earrings Are for Listening. Help me to welcoming the lecturer Susan Cohn. Before Petra Hölscher will introduce Susan Cohn, may I ask you for your attention? Please let us remember Peter Skubitz, who is in all our hearts. Peter Skubitz passed away recently. In him, we are losing a great and important artist. Die Neue Sammlung is full of gratitude for Peter Skubitz's generous and warm friendship and his always critical but also encouraging spirit. He was closely linked with Die Neue Sammlung for decades. Not alone because of his interesting and humorous lecture, or because of his outstanding exhibition in the Pinakothek der Moderne in 2011, also through his donations. On the occasion of his 60th anniversary, of his 60th birthday, he donated 60 pieces, 60 pieces from jewelry artist friends. Thus, Peter Skubitz has placed the jewelry collection of Die Neue Sammlung on a broad foundation that also includes Eastern Europe. Let us remember him in a moment of silence. Thank you very much. And now I would like to ask Petra Hölscher to introduce Susan Cohn. Thank you.
Guten Morgen alle miteinander. Schön, dass Sie auch an so einem frühen Sonntagmorgen da sind. Ich weiß nicht, wie es Ihnen geht. Ich bin ein bisschen müde, aber toll, dass Sie da sind. Zum dritten Mal, Frau Nollert hat es gerade schon gesagt, findet heuer die Engelhorn Schmuckmatinee im Gedenken an das Sammlerehepaar Christoph und Ursula Engelhorn statt. Ohne die Unterstützung der Engelhorn-Stiftung unter dem Dach der Museumsstiftung Bayerischer Staatsmuseen wäre es nicht möglich, Vortragende wie die australische Künstlerin Susan Cohn für einen Vortrag nach München einzuladen. Good morning, everyone. It's so nice that you find the way to us so early on a Sunday morning at Schmuck. My ambassador. The Engelhorn Jewelry Matinee is taking place for the third time this year in memory of the collector couple Christoph and Ursula Engelhorn. Without the support of the Engelhorn Foundation, under the umbrella of the Museum Foundation of Bavarian State Museums, it would not be possible to invite speakers like the Australian artist Susanne Cohn to give a lecture in Munich. Cohn describes herself as an artist with multiple personalities, working across the art crafts design divide, using a variety of media from jewelry to serial production, installation, photography, video, and performance. Living in Melbourne, Australia, she has been making work for over 39 years now, exhibiting extensively in Australia and overseas. She trained in gold and silversmithing at the Royal Melbourne Institute of Technologies, holds a Doctor of Philosophy in Fine Art Theory. You are a colleague of mine, right? And is director of Workshop 3000, a Melbourne access metal workshop. Cohn's broad understanding of design and making has also enabled her to work as a designer for Alessi, the Italian tableware company, as a curator of the international exhibition Unexpected Pleasures, the art and design of contemporary jewelry, commissioned by the Design Museum in London. In 2017, Cohn was awarded the Australia Council Artist Award. And now, Susanne, it's up to you. Please come to me. We are curious to hear your lecture and to learn more about you and your work. Please welcome.
I have my own Peter Skubrick story. We were invited to be in an exhibition, a conference, workshops in Beijing in China. I'd never met Peter, but of course I was very aware of who he was and I was delighted to have this opportunity. We were chatting, just introducing ourselves at the hosting event for the speakers, and a Chinese host came up to us and said, "Oh, you must know each other very well because you come from the same country." And we stood there and they disappeared, and we tried to work out whether it was Austria or Australia they were thinking of. So we used this then through the next week. One day we would be from Austria, the other day we would be from... But Peter wasn't very good at speaking Australian, I must admit, but better than me speaking Austrian. So it was, I've been thinking about that, a very special memory. Okay, deep breathing. When I started to think about this talk today, what I might say, I went blank. My note-taking quickly slipped into predictable moans and observations about contemporary jewellery. Boring, very boring. So I decided the only way to unravel the usual tropes about it all was to have a conversation with myself. So this talk will be Susanne talking with Cohn. And if you get confused, don't worry, because we are too. Okay. This is my workshop in Melbourne. Okay. Talking. Hello. How goes it? I'll try not to slip into Australian too much while I do this talk. Cohn, you say I'm only a jeweller. But only is the wrong word. It's more like, I'm a jeweller, what can I do? The only comes from a comparison to public activist voices who make a difference in this world. You say jewellery can say so much without saying anything. To talk where words can't. It is a magical language. You wonder if people tend not to think of jewellery as a language because its inherent beauty seduces them. We're all captivated by materials, makers and wearers alike. You talk about the language you use to develop jewellery. It's a conversation you have in your head constantly. Your jewellery exists because the things around you in the world make you angry, upset, or amused. That's the way your work works. It's a cycle. You say you cannot conceive a piece unless you have a name for it, because you need to know what it's going to say. Here you talk about the codes of life on the street, how your gang of teenage girls would use their jewellery to signal danger. Shifting a ring from one finger to the other would say, "Hey, we've got to get out of here." This experience is central to your relationship to jewellery and how it speaks. You say jewellery only speaks when worn. There's that word "only" again, and it's still the wrong word. Jewellery speaks publicly when worn. It speaks intimately between people when gifted. You say jewellery never speaks alone. This has implications for how jewellery passes on its meanings, and it also connects it to oral tradition. You say jewellery doesn't just sustain a conversation, it invites one. Toe tag offers a point example. Let's open with death, the most common and uncommon of moments. Toe tag is a gift to say goodbye to a loved one. The idea was to connect our goodbye. So I opt for gold toe tag with a stamped message. Toe tag emerges when I'm asked to give their eulogy. Apparently, I'm the only one who knows all their lovers. So I suggest film credits running behind me as I speak. Best dressed, best acting, best grip, and so on. And to end with the toe tag image. It is a way to give them an opportunity for a final farewell. It's almost unbearable to talk about death, but their black humour helps. They want to say something amusing and tender, but the words don't say it all. After much talking, we land on "your secret is safe with me." For us, it works both ways, for the living and the dead. My experience with saying goodbye leads to speculation on how jewellery can welcome a stranger. Refugees, for example, need the essentials for basic survival: a place to live, food, clothing, a job. Jewellery is not something high on the list. When arriving in an unfamiliar place, we need information. How to do it, where to find it, what is that? Sticks is a message stick. Jewellery to say welcome. A gift to invite any outsider who needs to negotiate their way into a new community. Peace token. In contrast to toe tag and sticks, the peace token quietly speaks. This token says, "Peace, let's start again." It creates a space for the offering of peace. Because jewellery carries ambiguity, whereas words often don't, it sits outside the conventional peacemaking strategies. The terms of making peace are more open, and it triggers a different way of negotiation. And because there are so many interactions like this in our lives, I want to mass produce something that works at a community level, like the AIDS ribbon, something that unifies people. When I told my family I was making peace tokens, they said, "Well, Cohn, you better make packs of 50 for us for Christmas," and we're only a family of 5. Making can be an escape from saying. You say making is an addiction. The allure of materials, the joy of repetitively twisting an object into shape, a constant learning how. You are sucked into a safety zone of silence where you say what you like. You say there's no ideal how to, because no technique is the only way of making. You ask if making on its own expresses the conceptual concern of the work, and in doing so, delete the need to draw on language for ideas. You do not want to know about this. You ask, what is the space between making and critical reflection? Does the politics of making lie in its finishing act? You wonder if fluency is at risk. Does it stop you thinking? What happens when a deliberate obstruction cuts across the flow of making? You talk about the time in which you were not able to make. You were too busy, your body was injured, you didn't have the workspace. The work starts in your head as language, as words describing attributes: round, light, disc, colours, a tinkering sound, or working out how to make it. It might be years before you make the work and see what it actually looks like. This process seems vital. The work speaks a language built for it before it was made. You quickly add, this is only possible after years of silent making. You hit on an idea about form. In some ways, critical thinking informs the making, and the making informs the thinking. It goes round in circles. No wonder I make donuts. The donut bangle was my first coherent development of ideas and principles through a commitment to a single form. The serially produced identical bangles owe their individuality to materials distinctions, joining details, and surface treatments. This allows endless technical and conceptual experimentation. The donuts express each new phase in thinking and making. They provide a way to play with the paradox of the authentic multiple versus the unique original. By being my experimental touchstone, the donut has become a signature, identifiably mine. It reappears throughout my work, either as a little detail or reconfigured as the basis for a new work. For me, fortunately or unfortunately, due to the programming in my head, when my ideas are digested, the donut form keeps reappearing. So whether I like it or not, the donut is my identity. The idea of a donut is not my original idea, yet a donut bangle is authentically mine. It is original. For my most recent exhibition, Pieces of Peace, I worked with 3 robots to make peace tokens. I've always played with technology to channel new ways of making into my ideas. I'm very interested in what robots can do that I can't. Robots can do the tasks I don't want to do anymore. And they've shown me ways to do things that I can do, but do them differently. They've added another layer of detail and expression to my making. I'm not sure where this is going to take me. I'm still learning about the technology and its limitations. After all, a robot is a machine, not AI. For a single maker like me, mass produce means 1,000 peace tokens, rather than tens of thousands. It's all about redefining the means of production according to scale, an ambition made achievable with technological development lining up with a low price point. A robot like this is about the price of a lathe. Why is that significant? Because the production of peace is too important to be left to the conventional modes of mass production. The dream is that demand for peace offerings is so high because the desire for peace is universal. We live in a world where everyone wants to live in peace with each other. Okay, that's unrealistic, I know, but it is something to aspire to. Overheard on a tram. Everything gets worse. It will get worse before it gets better. Does anything ever get better? You say, I wish people listened more. We don't know how to listen. It's a simple political thing. You wonder, can you ask someone how they are today and hold the space for their answer? You talk about the difficulty of learning Japanese, how anything already understood is left out. There's always gaps. You talk about the agony of eavesdropping and misunderstanding. Listening, but not hearing. You say this informs your relationship to the ambiguous language of jewellery. You say listening to the making is half the making. How you must listen to the sounds of making to get it right. Hearing is an unrated sense. Listening is at the heart of your relationship with jewellery. When you make a relationship ring, it comes out of listening. You start with a series of questions. How did you meet? What do you like about each other? When did you first fuck? What are your conflicts? You say listening is an ingredient of language. If I don't have my earrings on, I can't hear. I'll take them off when I don't want to listen. You say the earrings continue as a living work. They continue to teach you about people, about personalities, about colour near the face. They employ people, and they allow you to train other makers. You say the earrings keep you humble. Earrings have been around for a long time, at least since people live in cities. Wearing earrings comes and disappears with great regularity. Different signs of gender, race, religion, cultural ritual continually shift the customs. So does cold weather. Earrings slipped from significance during the contemporary jewellery movement. They were more popular in a street sense. In the early 1980s, when I started making simple disc earrings of many colours to hang from my ears, the earrings seemed to fit the over-exuberance of the time. Others from all walks of life started to wear them, different hues for different spirits. These colourful discs morph into a secret sign of a connecting circle. This circle continues to grow every year. What starts out as an experiment in making something with mass appeal evolves into a type of court jewellery. When the Sunny Walkman was first released on the market in 1984, I was living in Hong Kong. Every man, woman and child were wearing bright orange foam discs on their ears. They were everywhere. And I was mesmerised by their earring quality. Technology creating jewellery on the street. An earring is the purest, vainest, most ephemeral jewellery. One that most closely resembles the airy breath of talk. Someone chooses their earrings to signal what they most want to be whispered in their ear. Earrings talk in the ear. The ringing of the ring in the ear is the circle of hearing yourself speak. Words are heard the instant they are spoken. They travel from inside to outside and back inside again. And as your words journey back through the ear, your earrings will accompany them with chimes. And a final curious point about earrings. Big earrings mean you are very interested in other people listening to you. Performing, jewellery loves to pretend. You say the link between jewellery and performance is natural, because wearing jewellery is a performance. But jewellery is not performance art, though it does like to lead a performance. You say jewellery loves to pretend what it is not. It will happily subvert traditional categories of sex, gender and race. You say jewellery performs in synchronicity with our behaviour and appearance, to say who we are and what our intentions are. You say contemporary jewellery becomes incredibly performative when it challenges audience thinking. You say there's always a tension between the jewellery object as a projection of the maker and as the performative expression of the wearer. That's why you advocate for the wearer. You add that your fantasy of anonymity in your practice stems from a desire to observe how jewellery performs as a living object. You say it helps you chase spaces for experimentation. You think that jewellery might count as documentation for a performance, like meaninglessness. Is that why it needs its packaging and dry clover? You think about this point and reluctantly agree. Meaninglessness is a live performance using spoken word, images and jewellery to talk about the meaning of objects in our lives. It is triggered by the 2016 Danish jewellery legislation, which allowed border authorities to confiscate non-sentimental jewellery from people seeking asylum to meet their upkeep costs. The jewellery law affected me deeply because I'm a jeweller, because I know jewellery reflects identity and belonging. Made in collaboration with Melbourne director David Pledger, meaninglessness sits somewhere between performance and workshop and debate. It's an intimate exchange with its audience, a conversation about the social, political and historical context of jewellery, as a way to navigate troubled politics surrounding displaced people. The performance accumulates in sharing the live making of a 4-leaf clover pin. And we're gifting each audience member a package pin with a list of 10 actions to consider, such as wear the pin for a day and gift it to someone who's down on their luck, or wear the pin every day for a week and look into the eyes of everyone that you meet. The gifting, I just step off script for a minute because I want to acknowledge that the border guards in Denmark quietly protested and refused to confiscate any jewellery. They wouldn't search. It restored my faith in human beings. Gifting offers up a small way to remake our world. This questioning leads me to think of Way Past Real as the first accidental performance. Cohn as the observer, presiding over the meaning, but also tethered to the very value the work is questioning. Way Past Real is a large grid of 153 donut bangles, superficially uniform in production and apparently identical in material. The donuts are grouped into 4 families. Their differences juxtapose what is real and what is fake in various ways. It asks, what is more real than real? Hiding is a single fine gold donut, only outed by the exhibition price list. Its identity remains secret until the end of the exhibition. The teasing suggestion that if you know which one, you could grab it and run away underlines the performative aspect of Way Past Real. I'm fortunate to have a close working relationship with the Melbourne gallerist Anna Schwartz. Anna has supported my practice for 33 years. She's my harshest critic, yet always understands the why in my exhibitions. Our negotiation for Way Past Real lets me show the donuts lying openly on the floor as long as I am always present in the exhibition. This is my first real experience of performing, talking and listening. It opens my eyes to the living connection between jewellery and people. In May last year, Pieces of Peace was presented in the same gallery space as Way Past Real. This time, and my iPad, just give me a moment. This time, 3 robots are making and packaging peace tokens. I want the visitors to witness the making. But in our safety cautious world, a workshop supervisor must always be present. Every day was a dance. I had to be alert in a different way. Robots don't apologise. Fortunately, meaninglessness honed my experience of talking with people while making. Though this durational performance did test the limits of stamina. This experience reminds me of the immense value of creating safe space to discuss current concerns and discover how jewellery can freely speak. You say there is an opinion that jewellery should not be political. but it's inherently political. You say jewellery is not a natural vehicle for overt political statements. But people have always overlaid their beliefs and fetishes onto jewellery to talk for them. You say the pursuit of a social presence becomes political. You ask what it means for a work to be political if the politics is coded and could be lost over time. You say the question is how the jeweller insinuates in the power process when making objects is co-opted by the wearer. This opens a tension point. You say your work is political, but the voice is not only yours, it's also the wearer's. What does it mean to give away a work's meaning to the wearer? You concede it doesn't matter to you if people know it's a Suzanne Cohn piece. It matters to you that they know what the jewellery is saying, what it means. You call this the fear of jewellery losing its integrity. You look particularly interested when asked if this is impotence. Reflections on a safe future. The first time I made jewellery with a cause was in the mid-1990s when we were galloping towards the end of the century. The overwhelming impact of the silent AIDS pandemic and the growing sexual abuse awareness called for mutual caring. Perched on donut condom boxes, tallying sex provide actual and psychological power. They make safe sex possible, but they're also ready to bite the fingers off any unwanted suitor. A taxonomy of talismans weaves together cyberpunk street culture with formal reference to René Lalique's Dragonfly Woman of 1897. There are many paradoxes here. Organic, mechanical, beautiful, grotesque, powerful, fragile, protective, menacing, life, death. Love no war. This is a photograph taken in Melbourne on the first day of the bombing of Baghdad in 2003. It was at the height of the public protests against Australia's involvement in the Iraq War. The picture captures these two mannequins in a shop window with the words "No War" scrawled in chalk on a box outside. This image was projected across 2,500 activist badges like these, which I exhibited in the National Gallery Victoria in Melbourne because I wanted to register the protest. I wanted the protest to have a presence in a public institution. Last the blast. This jewellery offers an unsuspecting bomb victim a last opportunity to send a message to a loved one. It was a direct response to the Bali nightclub bombings. This stainless steel shell holds 2 titanium message tags embedded in a ceramic blanket, the same material that's used on the outside of NASA space shuttles. I upgraded that material so the jewellery could survive a bomb blast. A key instigator for thinking through politics and war was my estrangement from my sister. Often in an estrangement, you're not talking, and this was the case for us. I wanted to think about how I could open up a conversation with her. What could I give her that says, "Peace, I love you, let's start again"? My first instinct for a peace gift was a simple donut ring with the peace symbol. But that was just an object. I wanted to make jewellery that caused a physical interaction between us. Eventually, I devised a 4-step process using a strip of fine silver, which I call a pop, a piece of peace. It's thin and very soft, so it's easy for one person to wrap it around the finger of the other. Each ring becomes a symbol of resolution, and the physical memory of the interaction stays in the body. The toolkit comes with 1 or 2 pops, a scribe, a peace stamp, and instructions. It took me a long time to work it out. When you're in conflict with someone, a kind of inertia can take over. It can be paralysing. By the time I came up with the peace toolkit, my sister had fallen ill and tragically died. It's too late for me with her. But my regret about that has driven me to create objects for making peace with others. This two-way street between politics and the personal and jewellery makes me reflect on a question of value in the story of the toe tag. Ian asked me to help with finalising their will. Along with his daughter, we met with an estate lawyer. When Ian said he wanted to leave his collection of contemporary jewellery to me, the very surprised lawyer asked his daughter what she thought of that. And she said, "I don't want it." Incidentally, Ian is still alive. His curiosity about how we would prepare his body after death led us to making a film with him acting his dead self. His tumour, which is the size of a football in his lung, went to sleep, and the toe tag is still waiting its final performance. You say jewellery is a treasure house for social history, philosophy, art and people. Its stories, ideas and rituals help us understand our lives and the world around us. You say language helps to make jewellery. You've already talked about how ideas will run round in your head long before they spit out on the bench. You say jewellery is an idiosyncratic language. If we consider how language can homogenise ideas, how it makes ideas the same, then the loss of speakers, or too many speakers, or speakers repeating the same set of ideas endangers a language. You say we know from the study of language how language disappears. Easily, too easily. On average, one language goes extinct every 3.5 months. You say in Australia there is a heightened concern about the growing loss of Indigenous languages, as well as many migrant languages. As generations die, the number of native speakers decrease and traditions are lost. You say this is a problem compared to the loss of a single species, animals and plants, another big problem in Australia. You say you don't think the language of jewellery is endangered. It continues to evolve as long as it has throughout the history of time. But perhaps how to talk about contemporary jewellery is endangered. You ask if jewellery becomes impotent if it stops speaking, if it just keeps repeating the same ideas. Does jewellery lose its power if it stops being understood? You say this is a risk inherent in all making. What was once understood is misunderstood, unreadable, or simply taken for granted. You say this idea challenges you. You think it's about the effectiveness of jewellery to convey meaning. It is at this point that contemporary jewellery could lose its power. You say, of course, this will not happen to contemporary jewellery. We're too savvy, right? You say you're showing your anxieties and voicing this fear of losing. Is your jewellery losing its potency? Is your jewellery becoming endangered? You say this is perhaps why you give work away. You have an ever-increasing desire to connect with the wearer, to offer the wearer ways to communicate with others. You say you're increasingly aware that your work is becoming simpler and simpler, not just in making, but also in form and material. You are constantly searching for ways to make jewellery with a universal appeal, a kind of community jewellery that talks loudly on its own and for all of us. You tell how this fear of jewellery losing its meaning was underscored by a recent experience of seeing a relationship ring on someone you didn't know. This ring had been made in close collaboration with two people in love. The new wearer held it out proudly. The bragging repelled you. The ring was speaking a language you didn't make for it. It was a trophy of war. You say your language was endangered, not the jewellery's. Jewellery is often understood as a one-directional form of expression. This time, it was circular. We're coming to the end. Belonging, gambatte, keep on working. You say it's difficult to imagine what it would be like to live without knowing that we matter. You say when we struggle with life's big experiences, birth, death, illness, moving to a new place, falling in love, working on a big project, others will reach out and tell us we have a place in the world. You say we tend to ignore the difficulty of keeping going. The rituals of every day, getting out of bed, preparing food, eating, going to work, having a shower, getting the kids to school, travelling, filling out forms, talking to people, are all banal and relentless. Routine can be simply awful. Carrying on is tough. You say this continual repetition never goes away. Working through the mundane can be an extreme experience. Moaning only draws an annoyance, especially in a world that is overtaken with extreme human suffering. You say we will mask our personal suffering. We are expected, and we expect ourselves to be able to cope. You say it is human instinct to want to belong. You say jewellers voice ideas about belonging through the objects they make. Gunbutte jewellery is my suggestion for a gift for someone struggling with the humdrum of daily life. Gunbutte is a Japanese word that encourages people to keep going, wishes good luck. It will acknowledge an upcoming challenge. It literally means do your best. Keep working, keep doing. This jewellery are all very small, discrete, conceptual emergency savers. Reset buttons, a microphone, a lifesaver. Gifting these pins say, I see you struggle. Know someone's thinking of you. My lifesaver is my go-to jewellery, especially when I'm anxious about doing something. Ring Cycle is a collaboration between people and maker to bring a living presence into a museum exhibition. 81 thick, black, virginal aluminium rings. 81 friends and colleagues, all who contribute to Melbourne culture in some way, wear a ring over the summer, marking the ring through wear. The dings and scars inflicted on each ring make them different to each other. After gathering all the rings together, they're sorted out into 9 gangs. The Mangles, the makers, Ponies, Mates, Orals, Zests, Movers, Slinkies and Anals. everyone seeks their own ring in the exhibition. Stories of wearing are swapped. The belonging is infectious. Ring cycle becomes the beating heart of the exhibition. I want to finish with a little work that started as my response to the pandemic politics. During our extended Melbourne lockdown, exhibitions were cancelled, but like everyone else, we were inventive with digital gatherings and street presentations. I'm invited to make a work inspired by one of 42 dispatches from the future. I instantly connect with an editorial by Tim Baker titled "The Donut Swallows the Whole." It's not only the title that captures my imagination. In Baker's discussion about the upheaval of the pandemic, he talks about the donut effect, first espoused by urban planners about cities, where the centre of society begins, and I quote Tim, to appear increasingly hollow or vacuum, a moral vacuum, and its real substance, its essence and tastiness, dwells on the outside circles, on its margins. I ponder, what happens when a donut swallows its whole? Think about it. Picture it. What does it look like? The donut disappears and a black hole appears. An arsehole comes to mind. As we wrestle with a rolling series of crises in our current times, caring for others is increasingly integral to our sense of community. It strengthens our humanity. Every voice is heard, and everyone is a part of the flow. This pin is a little reminder, don't be an arsehole. Large posters are plastered over the city, and I attach arsehole pins for people to souvenir during their 1 hour daily walk. It's great fun connecting back to my city. For me, jewellery is about belonging and survival. As we imagine our futures and try to navigate growing public tensions, I wonder how jewellery could offer an antidote to anxiety and fear. I haven't worked out how yet. Fresh thoughts are brewing up in my head, but I know jewellery has the potential and it's worth exploring. Gambatte.
Many thanks for this incredible lecture, for your thoughts, for your ideas. I think we all have now a lot of thoughts in our mind.
A bit heavy going for Sunday morning though. I forgot about that bit.
Okay, I think we stop here and...
I want to interrupt for a minute.
Oh,
I
please.
would like to show my gang, my Melbourne gang, so you know some of the people from Australia. Oh, I'll move it. Hang on, this is what I'll do. Just very briefly, there's about 8 of us. We hang out together, we eat, drink, argue, prod each other, we keep each other honest. And it's kept us all going. It's kept us alive and supporting. So there's 8 people. I asked them to send me a picture of a work, a picture of themselves in the studio, and 2 sentences. But I got all these paragraphs of work. So I learned a lesson. If anyone asks me for 2 sentences, it's only 2 sentences. So I won't read out what they've sent to me because it will just take too long. And they'll forgive me eventually, they will. Marion Hosking. Marion Hosking was my teacher in art school, and we formed Workshop 3000 together back in 1980 as an access workshop for jewellers, particularly for emerging jewellers. She taught me so much, was so patient. I was so awful. I was such a pain. I thought I knew it all. And she just quietly, calmly would point me in the right direction. We had 2 benches together. There was 10 benches in the workshop, and sitting next to each other. And I'd be sawing or doing something. And Marion would go, "Cohn, what are you doing?" Oh, okay. So I started sawing and making like this. But Marion has a wonderful way of interpreting the Australian landscape. She works in silver, in fine silver, the objects, their jewellery. She likes to play with the notion of the miniature as a souvenir. And she captures the unique qualities that are part of Australia. Not just the visual structures, but also the light. Kalia Makagawa, we graduated in the same year. Kalia was with us in the first 4 years or so of Workshop 3000, and we've continued a connection over a long period of time. Kalia crafts these metallic frameworks which have this sort of expressive energy, and she uses and explores the sense of containment to show her ideas. Which button? Mark Edgoose. Edgoose was 2 years behind me in art school. He now is running the Gold and Silver Smithing Department in RMIT. And we have been partners in crime in many public events, on boards, trying to get a voice, the changing voice of craft and jewellery out there. He makes these rails. They're made of titanium, and they travel around a space. They travel around your house. And it's part of who he is, he says, so do you forget what you leave a room, you forget what you're going to do, or what was it you went to get? He said, that's part of his everyday. Is it yours, Cohn? Yep, okay. I've got to make something that we can put all these little reminders scattered through the house so you know how to find them. Sue Lorraine, also in the workshop in the early days, and is now working in Adelaide. Sue has a delicious sense of humour, quite savage. She made these during COVID, and they were to reflect the sort of small personal domestic struggles that were happening on a daily basis. They're called soft-boiled screams, and of course they refer to an obvious nod to Edvard Munch's painting, The Scream. But they're referencing the everyday and how these are a part of our lives. Catherine Truman. Catherine and Sue are married. They live in Adelaide. When Sue left the workshop, or Catherine met Sue in the workshop and they fell in love, and then they went to Adelaide. Started their own workshop called Grey Street Workshop, which has been a supporting hub for young jewellers ever since that time. They have mentored so many people. This work is called Lotus, and the leaves are thermoplastic embedded with a photoluminescence powder, so they glow in the dark. What I like, she said, that the Lotus needs to sleep in a bed of mud in order to rise afresh every day. That's what I forgot to do last night, I think. Roseanne Bartley was one of the first people I taught and coped with my inexperience at teaching, and we seemed to make a connection and keep going. And she's interested in language, particularly in communication. And this is an alphabet of rings where she explores the wearability, the juxtaposition between wearability and a typeface. Manon van Kuske, we were so pleased when she moved from Amsterdam to Melbourne. We were delighted. And she keeps us on our toes. As those who know Manon knows that she works with the beaded necklace, that she did this very simple first types of jewellery. And she plays with her own sort of versions of it. She likes to think that by her making and piecing elements on a thread, that she's making them hers, and after that she invites you to make them yours. The final person is Claire McArdle. She's the newest member of the gang. And Claire said we have a contemporary jewellery festival called Radiant Pavilion, and she was one of the co-founders. It's not as big as Schmook, but we're getting there. And her work explores the performative making in a jewellery context. And she writes something lovely: ply, to work steadily with a tool, to practice regularly, to repeat supply. And plier, a hand tool used to hold objects firmly, a person or a thing that plies. So they're the set of people. As I said, we try and keep each other honest, and I'm really going to have to explain why I didn't read out their statements at the end of the talk. Hopefully I'll get away with it. Okay, thank you.